Hello, Sami from Agencyfy here, and today we're going to talk about the 80-20 principle as it relates to recruitment. Now, I'm sure you've heard of the 80-20 principle or the Pareto's Law, which basically states that 80% of your results come from roughly 20% of your actions. Within recruitment, it's even more important that you're able to identify what that 20% is and that you're able to focus as much of your energy into that as possible. So let's draw a little pie chart here. Okay, so we have a big circle. My pen's just gone on me there. Okay, there's my circle. I'm quite proud of that. So there's your circle, all right? Roughly 20% of your pie. That is what's generating revenue for your business. That's what's actually moving the needle. That's what's putting money into your bank account. This 80% is noise, okay? This is what's taking you away from your goals, your recruitment goals, your business goals. This 80%. Your job as a recruiter is to make sure that as much of your time as possible is dedicated here. How do you do that? And what are those activities? Well, put simply, 20% of your time should go onto revenue generating activities. Okay? Revenue generating activities. What are revenue generating activities? Number one is conversations. You need to be speaking to candidates. You need to be speaking to clients. And in particular, clients, closing deals, getting them to sign terms, negotiation, back and forth with clients. That's certainly part of your 20%. Having conversations with clients that are non-revenue generating, anything to do with admin, for example, anything to do with sending invoices, still one-to-one with a client, but it's not directly revenue generating, and that's something that can be outsourced. Speaking to candidates in particular, the further down they are down that recruitment process. For example, what I always say whenever someone, and my recruiters can definitely attest to this, when someone comes into the business, when they come into Razor Point and they find it a bit difficult to prioritize, what I always say to them is, close your eyes and visualize. What part of that task or what part of your day-to-day is closest to the finish line? What part is closest to signing a deal? What part is closest to a placement? That needs to be prioritized. That needs to be done first before anything else. So that can include, for example, let's say we have candidates that we need to put forward. We can have someone here. Let's see, candidate conversations. Okay, but there's different types. So the first one can be, for example, a screening call with a new candidate for a new role. We can have someone here who needs to be, let's say, prepped for interview 1. And then we have someone here who needs to be prepped for final interview. Okay. And we might have someone who we need to negotiate an offer for. Okay. So they've had their interviews and they're happy to go forward. Let's say salary isn't quite right. We're negotiating that last 5, 7, 10K. Which one of these is the most urgent, i.e. which one is the most urgent and most important? Which one is closest to that deal? Obviously, it's this one here. So that needs to take priority. This will be higher on that 20%. But to be honest with you, prepping for an interview, prepping for a final interview and that negotiation, all of these, okay, would fall within that 20%. This one here, a screening call, would fall along the 80%. However, and this is a key distinction, just because it falls into the 20%, the 80% and is noise, doesn't mean that it's not important. Doesn't mean that it should be left out. It's just noise for you. It needs to be either cut out or it needs to be delegated. A screening call is one that I put on the 80% because that can be delegated. That can be given to a sourcer. That can be done by AI, right? Maybe not the screening call straight away, but a screening. So a CV screening, for example, can be put into an ATS, your applicant tracking system, and your AI can pick out whether or not, based on the initial screening, whether that candidate is a fit or not. Or that can be done by, like I said, a sourcer, or someone else that's been hired from South Africa, from the Philippines, in the Ukraine, wherever it is, where the cost to hire is much cheaper, so that you can focus on these things here, which are more critical, which are more in that 20%. Okay, so these are some of those elements. Next, you need to make sure that you're auditing exactly your days in order to be able to find what's in the 80% and 20%. And the best way to do that is to divide your day into 15-minute blocks. Yes, you heard me right, 15-minute blocks. So a bit of space here. Okay. So let's say you start your day, right? Start your day at 8:30. 8:30 here, 15 minutes. Okay. 8:45. Another 15 minutes, right? 9 a.m., 15 minutes, and so on and so on. You need to make sure it's going to be laborious for the first couple of days, but it's the only way for you to truly track how you're spending your time. I promise you, after the first day, you're going to want to slap yourself in the face for all the time that you've wasted. One, not really working, just doing busy work. And then two, how much of your time you've spent here on activities which are not making you or your business any money. So that audit is very, very important. That little bit of extra admin to figure out exactly where your time is slipping, where it's being wasted, is going to save you a huge amount of time going forward. Then once you've got that, okay, you need to make sure, like I said before, is to decide whether one, to eliminate, right? I'll just put the eliminate here. Or, so as you can see here, we have eliminate or delegate. The choice that you're going to choose here is really going to be dependent on the actual task itself. If the task is neither important nor urgent, you can just get rid of it completely. But of course, there are many tasks which need to be done, which are still important, that should still be completed, but you should just give them to someone else, i.e. delegate. That's where things like this come in. Screening calls, for example, that needs to be done, but it should be delegated to someone else or AI or whatever's relevant for them for that particular task. So as you can see here, we have 80-20. Make sure that you focus on your 20%. It's going to be difficult in the beginning, okay? It's going to take some systems. It's going to take some hiring. It's going to take all the pain that comes with that. But I promise you, if you do it right, the outcome is going to be well worth the effort. Now, here's a little tip. When you look at this 20%, there's an even further 20% here, the 20% of the 20%, right? This is getting a bit more technical, but I guarantee you, even within the 20%, there's a further 20% here that's actually really driving everything, okay? That's actually putting everything forward, putting everything into place. As an example, we talked about negotiating offers. We talked about prepping for final interview, etc. But it might be that one call that you had, right, in the last 2 weeks that actually set everything forward, and everything else. For example, the client conversations that you are having, very important, still part of the 20%, but over time, even that could still be delegated to someone who's a bit more senior, someone that you've trained up, someone that has been shadowing you, so that you can focus only on that 20% of the 20%, which is much, much more critical. This is the stage that I am at now within my business. I don't do this 80%, right? And I don't do this 20% either. I do this here, right? The conversations which my managers had, right? But they've just not been successful, or the things that only I can do, right? And to be honest with you, as much as I'd love to say I'm the most talented person in the world, there are very, very, very few things within my business that only I can do, right? I've delegated so much now that I'm not 100% putting my feet back, but I'm spending very, very little time, but on the highest impact tasks. That's the level that you can get to. And it all starts with this auditing, looking at your day, looking at what needs to be done. And it's going to take time. You're not going to get to here or even here within one day. It's going to take time. It might take months. It might take a couple of years to get to that point. You need to hire the right people. You need to have the right systems in place. But it all starts with that first step. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and share it with someone who you think might find it valuable. Hey, thanks for watching the video. Before you go, let me quickly tell you why you should subscribe. If you're serious about making money in recruitment, whether you're a business owner trying to scale, a recruiter looking for independence, or an entrepreneur, or a salesperson exploring the industry, this channel is built for you. I don't just share theory, I give you practical guides, step-by-step tutorials, and real insights from my experience. I started from scratch, spent years figuring this stuff out on my own, and now I'm sharing everything I've learned. The wins, the mistakes, and the systems that actually work. This is real, on-the-ground knowledge from someone currently running multiple recruitment agencies, managing teams, and building systems that scale. If that sounds like something you want to be a part of, make sure you like, follow, and subscribe. I post new videos like this every week, and I also share more insights on my Instagram, things you won't find in any formal degree. So go ahead, check out the next video, and let's keep growing.